Members, panel, and visitors, we're now live streaming, please. So we're just on time, so we will start the meeting. So welcome everybody to the meeting of the Police and Crime Panel. This meeting is being broadcast live to the public via YouTube and will be available for viewing on YouTube after the meeting. Please turn your microphone on when speaking and turn it off when you have finished. Fire alarm test is not scheduled today, so if the alarm does sound, please exit the room and the Democratic Service Officer will direct you forwards to the fire exit. So the gentleman on my left when he returns to his seat. I have received apologies from Councillor Wise and we have Councillor Diane Ellison. So welcome, Diane. Present as a substitute. We have also received apologies from Councillor Butcher and Councillor Wooditwiss. I'll move straight into the agenda. Item 1 is public question time. I have received no questions from the public. Excuse me. Agenda item 2 is urgent items. I have received no urgent items. Agenda item 3 is declarations of interest. Do any members have any interest which they wish to declare? No, that's fine. Thank you very much. Agenda item 4 is the confirmation hearings for the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner. When notified of a proposed appointment under Schedule 1 of the Police Reform and Social Responsibility Act 2011, it is the duty of the Police and Crime Panel to hold a public confirmation hearing and to review, make reports and recommendations in respect of the candidates in this case. Questioning during the hearing must relate to the professional competence or personal independence of the candidate. When question is complete, the panel has 3 principal options available to it. Option 1, if the panel is content with the proposed senior appointment, it can agree to report its endorsement to the Police and Crime Commissioner. Second option, where a candidate meets the standards, but the panel has concerns about their suitability, such concerns can form part of the panel's report and recommendations to the Police and Crime Commissioner. Option 3, in the event that the panel determines that a candidate does not meet the requirements for the post, the panel may provide advice and recommendations accordingly to the Police and Crime Commissioner in its report. The chairman of the panel, myself, will write to the Police and Crime Commissioner following the confirmation hearing to outline the decisions and recommendations of the panel. The candidate will also be sent a copy of the letter. Should the recommendation be that the proposed candidate be endorsed, then the applicant can take up the post. Following a refusal recommendation by the panel, the Police and Crime Commissioner has the following options. The Police and Crime Commissioner continues with the appointment. Under these circumstances, the Police and Crime Commissioner should publicise a response focusing on why he felt that the candidate did in fact meet the minimum standards for the post. Option 2, the candidate can decide to withdraw. And option 3, the Police and Crime Commissioner can decide not to appoint and instead set out a timetable for a new appointment. Before we move on to conduct the hearings though, we have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Matthews. How do you see the job share arrangement working in practice? You have set it out as 0.5 of an FTE, which is 17.5-ish, 18 hours. You have then set out 2.2. That equates in my book to about 7.5 hours a week. So, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I am aware, of course, that having a job share in place for Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner is unusual arrangement. But as you will know, Chair, as we've worked together for a good number of years, I'm never shy about breaking convention if I believe it is the correct thing to do, and as long as it is, of course, in accordance with the law. So I'm pleased to say that my Chief Executive has checked with the Home Office, and this is in accordance with statute, so we can job share the role of the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner. The reason why I want to job share the post is to bring it in a range of talent to cover different aspects of the job. You will recall my previous deputy had to stand down for personal reasons, which was a great shame. During her time as my deputy, although she'd been taken on specifically to do one particular part of the responsibilities of the Police and Crime Commissioner. Over time, it turned out she was helping me with quite a range of things. And although I know many people probably don't believe this, the role of a Police and Crime Commissioner can be very demanding in terms of time, as well as the amount of expertise and concentrating needed to do the work. So I don't think proceeding as a solo Police and Crime Commissioner was where I wanted to go with this. As regards how I see the job share working, I believe in great flexibility. As you know, I come from an industry where part-time working, contract working, and so on is very much the norm. I do not intend that each of the deputies should work their stipulated hours every week. I do not expect, for instance, Oliver to come in on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the Reverend to come in on Thursday, and so on. I'm sure there will be days when all three of them are working. There will be days when none of them are working. I do expect, however, that over the period of a month, they will work their requisite number of hours. When we come to the Reverend's role with the local criminal justice board, I think it is very likely that the work he will need to do will cluster around the dates of the meetings of the local criminal justice board, and that in those weeks and the weeks either side of it, he'll be putting in a lot of hours. And then when there isn't a meeting of the local criminal justice board, not so much. As regards the other two, I think probably they will be working their hours each week, but certainly in the course of a month, I will expect them and will monitor, of course, to make sure that they are doing the hours for which they are paid. So I know this is a unique arrangement. I don't think any other Police and Crime Commissioner has gone down this route, but I believe it offers the best chance of getting into the role, the skills which are needed for the jobs that I want my deputy to do, rather than try to find one person who's got such a wide range of talents and skills, and of course is available to do the job. As I'm sure you are aware, Chair, like all political jobs, it's short term, it's unpredictable. You don't know if you're going to get re-elected, and for the deputy, of course, it's even worse because the re-election campaign is completely out of their hands, and they can't actually stand for election. They're just dependent on the Police and Crime Commissioner, whether or not they get elected. So finding somebody who is able and willing to do the job is difficult. I believe that by job sharing it, it's much more likely, and indeed has proved much more possible and easier to find the talent that is needed to do these different roles. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. I remain personally with concerns over the effectiveness of a 7.5 hour a week appointee. And your final comment, Mr. Matthews, if I may, I believe that with local government reorganisation, the role of the Police and Crime Commissioner will disappear anyway. So we will see. So, Mr. Lloyd, you have a question.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Let me emphasise very at the offset, this is about the post and not an individual. I think it's important to remember that. And again, showing concerns with regards to the outline of all the positions that's shown before us. And the concerns are quite significant with regards to how the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioners undertake their role effectively, and equally to meet all objections required of them within the specified time frame which has been allocated at the same time. Concerns were raised around the time required to undertake these roles and the time required for the meetings, travel time. Obviously, they will come under the specific guidelines on the Purple Book about toil arrangements. Concerns also raised in terms of on-costs associated with these posts. So again, I'm quite concerned about all the offshoots with regards to the positions and the posts that you're actually proposing, Commissioner. Thank you.
Mr. Matthews, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Chair. Well, I can deal with one straight away. The on costs if we're talking about pension contributions and that's national insurance and such like, are exactly the same as if it was one single person working the same number of hours. So, yeah, there would. I can't think that there would be any on costs that are greater having 3 people working the same number of hours as one person will be working. So I can't see how that would work.
There'll be travel costs as well, won't there? So all these travel costs associated with the posts, especially the part-time ones.
Well, yes, but no more than one person working the same number of hours and doing the same sort of duties. So, oh well, we can see. As regards the number of hours doing the different roles, I think the one which I was slightly concerned about was the local criminal justice board role. We checked with other offices of police and crime commissioners around the country, and the consensus seemed to be that it was taking about 1 day a week to do that role, although, as I've already indicated, it can tend to clump around particular weeks. So one week you might be doing 2.5 days and the next week nothing at all. But on average, 1 day a week seemed to be the consensus of other offices of police and crime commissioners to how much that role would take up. As regards the other 2 roles, I'm quite confident that the time allotted is going to be enough. And if it isn't enough, then it doesn't get done. So this isn't a position where hours are going to overrun. They have hours to work. They will work those hours. And if they haven't got all the work done, then that's because I'm giving them too much work to do. And I will have to reassess how much work is being done. So I'm quite confident that hours will not overrun. I'm quite confident that the on costs are the same for 3 people working the same number of hours as one person would work. So unless the council's got something very specific he wants to ask, and to which I may not know the answer and may have to come back, I can't really see the problem.
I think, Mr. Matthews, and with the greatest respect, Mr. Lloydell, time is limited today, so we do need to push on. We have 3 candidates to listen to, but Councillor Baxter, you also had a question for Mr. Matthews specifically.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Matthews. As someone who has worked as a part of a job share, I would like to know how you're going to, how the DPCCs will fit into the culture and the continuity of the OPCC when they're only working for a limited amount of time.
Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Well, like the council, I've also done job share and part-time work and short-term contracts and a whole range of other things. Obviously not as PCC, but in my previous life as a historian. In my experience, fitting in with the culture of an office comes down to making the effort to do so on both sides. On the side of the host office is explaining things and working people in gradually and making the office culture clear. On the part of the part-time worker or job share worker, it's part of the skill of being a part-time worker is that you're adept at doing these things and you work as you're expected to do in other offices. I mean, I've done things where I've been working 1 day a week in one office and 2 days a week in another office, and you just fit in and you adapt your behaviour accordingly, which is what I expect these 3 candidates to do. As with anybody working part-time or job sharing, it's just what you do.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. I think panel probably remains concerned, and as I think we can probably anticipate those areas are likely to come under scrutiny as we move forward. Mr. Lloydell, very quickly, please.
Yeah, I do appreciate your time. Point of order, if I may. We're here in public arena, and forgive me, we've got 1 candidate sitting listening to all of this, but the other 2 candidates are being disenfranchised and not listening to any of it. Is that something we should be taking on board? Thank you.
The meeting's being live streamed, so they can catch up on the recording afterwards if they want to find out what's been said. But yeah, but not at the moment, no. But they would be able to after the event. Yeah.
Noted. Thank you, Mr. Lloydell. Right. Right. We need to move on, panel. Thank you. So agenda item 5 is a confirmation hearing for Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner, England Engagement and Lobbying, Mr. Oliver Bryant. It's in pages 5 to 20 of your agenda pack. Damien Buckley. Oh, the candidate's here. Welcome, Mr. Bryant. I'm now going to invite the Police and Crime Commissioner to explain why he chose you, and then we will move on from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the first role, as you've heard, is about lobbying and so on. Over the past few months, lobbying of government on various matters has come up at this panel a number of times. And I felt that it was important to have somebody who was adept at doing that, who had experience of lobbying government on a wide range of subjects, as we have dealt with at this panel, but also dealing more broadly with public affairs and communications and what have you. I must tell this panel that I've known Mr. Bryan for off and on for a number of years. Mr. Bryan was working at the European Parliament at the same time that I was, and so I came across him in his professional capacity then. Since then, he has worked at a number of places, including at a public affairs company. No, not a company, it was a body, wasn't it? Public affairs body, think tank, thank you, over in New Zealand, which gave him a wider range of experience of dealing with different types of government departments and a number of different subjects. So I'm confident that he can undertake this role. Like I say, I've known him for a number of years. I'm confident that he will work well with me. I'm confident that he will fit in well at the office. And so I have no hesitation at all in putting Mr. Bryan forward to this panel as one of the job share Deputy Police and Crime Commissioners who I would like to see in post. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Okay, so do you prefer Mr. Bryant or Oliver?
Oliver will do.
Thank you. So the way this works, Oliver, as you may be aware, is that members have a series of set questions that we work through. There will be opportunities for supplementary questions following on from your response. So we'll open the confirmation questioning with you with Councillor Blackshaw.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Oliver. Can you tell the panel what has attracted you to the role of DPCC for Leicestershire and Rutland at this time?
It certainly is a mouthful. What attracted me was that I have previously worked with the OPCC. So just on a side note, I already know the office quite well and get on with pretty much everyone in there. They may say different, but I'm sure they won't. I've had family members that have been in the police growing up. I've always been sort of adjacent to some of the issues that are facing the police. And then, of course, knowing Rupert, talking to Rupert over the years and having previously worked in his office, these are issues and environments that are not anathema to me. I care deeply about public safety. I care deeply about public duty. And this role encompasses all of that and gives me the opportunity to serve and to help Rupert.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Mullaney.
Thank you, Chair. Within your career to date, can you highlight similar roles, experiences that have prepared you for this DPCC role?
I won't keep going back to my previous experience working within the OPCC because I think that's fairly obvious that it would be a great boon in my position. Specifically about the engagement and the lobbying, I suppose my current role, or until a couple of weeks ago, my role with Canberra, the Campaign for Real Ale, is all about making sure that we win national concessions from government to help pubs, clubs and the beer industry. That involves making contacts throughout government. It involves putting aside any personal bias towards the job. I would say that the New Zealand job that I had as well also involved those aspects. My my experience in those roles basically teaches me that I have to build networks. I have to work with absolutely everyone that I come across that may be able to help in achieving those goals. I have to understand the issues, and I have to be able to effectively communicate and listen at the same time, all of which I think are essential as part of this role.
Thank you. Mr. Woodman, do you wish to follow?
Thank you, Chair. Can you tell us about a time you have had to manage a challenging situation within a public-facing role, and what did you learn as a result?
In terms of public-facing role, I haven't yet had the opportunity to be in a public-facing role. I appreciate that some of you may have concerns around that. Hopefully, I'm dispelling that at the moment. In terms of challenging situation, I won't go into the minutiae because I don't want to mention names or anything, but my role in New Zealand involved me investigating government expenditure, occasionally government waste, and then going onto the national media to represent my findings and our recommendations. As part of that, one of our board members did not like the editorial stance that I was taking on a particular issue and phoned me up the day before it was going out to press. They happened to be involved with the aspects of the government that I was criticising at the time. That naturally presented a challenging situation. Do I go with what the board member wants, or do I maintain the standards of the job that I had at the time, which was to advocate for more accountability and greater transparency within government? I went with that option. For a time, that caused some animosity between me and that board member, but nevertheless, I fulfilled my job and my boss was happy, and the story got pretty good traction.
Thank you. Can we move on? Councillor Cook-Kelvin, please.
Thank you. I'm sort of specifically looking at your job description, Appendix D. Can you tell us how you can sort of demonstrate the skills and the ability to carry out the responsibilities that are contained within your job description?
Forgive me, I don't know it off by heart and I don't have the appendix. But what I would say is that my previous work experience has taught me the strategic and lateral thinking that's required for this sort of role. We're dealing with an almost incalculable amount of very difficult issues that really matter to people and are basically the measure of success of this role is felt by the public. Therefore, I think being able to understand the public's needs, listen to and engage with the public, which I've done throughout working for MPs, working on campaigns. Campaign requires discipline, it requires messaging. You all know this better than I and better than most people in the country because of your repeated elections. It requires a familiarisation with having relationships with senior leaders among local bodies, among government, within the civil service, as well as with politicians and other elected officials. I have the background within cooperative and collaborative working. All of the jobs that I've had would not have been possible if I had not built decent relationships and networks cross-party and with all sorts of different levels of seniority. I think reputation matters as well. I believe that I have the credibility throughout my previous work that I can bring to this role as well. I can build credibility and maintain relationships and reputation. Solutions is also very important. I enjoy problem solving and getting people in a room and trying to solve a problem. I've done that throughout my career thus far, whether that's thinking of new ways to gain the public's attention. In New Zealand, for instance, during the 2023 general election, apart from the Labour and National parties, a poll afterwards found that our organisation had the second most recognisable campaign, and we weren't even a party. That was largely owing to the fact that I designed all sorts of aspects of the advertising that we were putting out there. We had radio adverts and billboards and all sorts of things like that were relatively eye-catching, if I do say so. As part of it, personal responsibility comes with all that as well. It's a leadership thing. You can't expect people to go out and work for you or work for whatever it is that you're advocating if you're not prepared to take responsibility as well. Part of that, of course, is being here and answering your questions, but also going out and defending the record. And finally, I suppose, knowledge. Having worked with Rupert for a number of years on and off and seeing his campaigns, understanding the police and crime plan, and previously having to work to implement that, I do have a knowledge of what Rupert's trying to achieve and what the force needs.
Thank you. Ellie, did you want to ask a supplementary?
Yeah, thank you. You've got vast experience there, very impressive. I just wondered what you felt you add to the current role of the PCC and what sort of further support and training you might require.
For further support and training, by all means, if you see a glaring obvious place that I should look at, please tell me, but I will have to develop that on the job, I think. I can't yet tell you, but I'm sure there'll be something. As for what I can add, I think the first and foremost, it helps that I know Rupert and can work with him. We've achieved great things in the past, and I'm sure we can again. If I maybe blunt Rupert, being given the lobbying brief, Rupert may struggle. The party that he is in may not have best access to people in government or civil servants. That will not be a problem for me because I'm not partisan in any particular way. I have networks within all of the major parties in the UK. I have done it abroad and I've done it in this country. It's not particularly a barrier for me, and I've done it with measurable success as well.
Okay, thank you. Forgive me, panel, we will push through this. Just so we stick to the time frame as best we can. So, Mr. Lloydell.
Quickly then, Chairman. Thank you. Oliver, simple question really. What do you believe should be the relationship between the OPCC and the Police and Crime Panel, please?
Going back to one of my previous jobs, accountability and transparency. It's your job to hold us accountable and our job to prove to you that we're doing what's set out in the Police and Crime Plan. Every member of this panel wants the plan to succeed. It benefits us all if it does, and you will drive positive change with your appropriate questioning and analysis of what Rupert delivers. The close scrutiny is always welcome. Keeps us on our toes and makes sure that we're doing our job as we should be. It seeks to improve, which is always handy. Already, I'm grateful that Councillor Cook-Kelvin has asked if there's areas where I can improve, because that means that there will be someone else watching out for it as well. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. It's the accountability and the transparency. That's a big thing for me. I don't take that sort of thing lightly, and neither do I dismiss it. It's part of being a public servant and public duty.
Thank you, Oliver. There is a very specific question that my panel wishes to explore. So can I hand over to Councillor Cook-Kelvin, please?
Yes, thank you. I just think we as a panel would like some reassurances in regards to diversity and inclusion and equality, and just wondered how you would handle if there was any conflict in opinion between yourself and the Police Crime Commissioner, how you would seek to handle that.
I normally wouldn't delve too far into a hypothetical like that. I can't envisage a scenario where that might happen, but if there was a disagreement with Rupert, then I would go forward with a one-to-one meeting with him to be open, transparent again with him on my thoughts. I would push back on something that I thought was wrong or not compliant with either the values of the office that he holds or in any way diverges from his aims and the Police and Crime Plan. I would certainly raise that with him. But at the end of the day, my role is to make his job easier and to help him deliver what he set out to do. And of course, I believe that he's got excellent judgment, hence my sitting here. So I shall leave it with that.
Okay, thank you. So the next question falls to me. By default, Oliver, as panel works through these questions, you will have already previously answered part or all. So do forgive. There are a set of questions that have been evolved over many years. So, can you demonstrate a time when you involved or engaged with stakeholders to ensure that they've been able to influence policing and crime issues? And if I may, can you focus on the United Kingdom? What happened in New Zealand is not relevant to the United Kingdom, please.
Certainly. The first thing that springs to mind immediately was when I was last working within the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner. Back then, I was, again, sort of in charge of getting Rupert down to meet with relevant people. As part of building the relationship with the force, we were obviously asking the force what they need from us in terms of what Rupert as a politician can deliver. One of the things at that time was Attorney General guidance and guidelines around redaction and things that they can send to the CPS. The various guidance around that had got to the stage where the CPS and the police weren't sharing much information at all that could bring a plausible charge, and was obviously holding the system up. It required an awful lot of man hours from Leicestershire Police in terms of redaction, going back to the CPS, unredacting, etc., etc. And as far as I could understand, there was no other PCC taking up that mantle, and no other PCC at the time that was going down to London and kicking up a stink about this. So getting a briefing on the effect that it had on Leicestershire Police, we went down and got Rupert in front of all the various members of the Home Select Committee. I think eventually you did get Priti Patel at the time. And whilst it's not entirely easy to measure the effect of that, I'm sure Leicestershire Police would not balk at saying that they no longer get escalations that cause an awful lot of hassle on that field, which has freed up so much officer time and will hopefully have reduced costs in that area as well.
Okay, thank you. I won't bother with the supplementary. So straight over to Councillor Daywood, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation so far. My question is, your role includes taking into account the needs of diverse and hard-to-reach communities across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. Can you provide an example which demonstrates your ability to engage with this range of groups and produce tangible results?
Yes, I don't know whether I still technically count as a young person, but I'll take that. I think they're often a much maligned and hard to reach group, particularly when it comes to policing. Trust in the police is established at a young age. And I think regardless of people's background, everyone's young once, and you've got to get in as early as you can really to establish that good relationship. So I come at it from that point of view, but also I have done work in that vein as well to reach young people about things that I believe are important. So forgive me, Chair, I will use New Zealand again as an example, but out there I had the opportunity to come up with and to present a business plan for funding from an organisation that sponsored us in America. As part of that, I basically developed youth wings of the organisation I worked for and expanded that to universities in New Zealand. That was effectively to teach them about tax, the implications of tax. I won't bore you with any more of it, but I'm pleased to say that my business plan was shortlisted. I then went to present it in Malaysia and I did win the funding for it. So these sort of things are close to my heart, and wherever there is a problem, I will seek to solve it. But my area of predilection in that sense is getting young people involved.
Okay. Do you want to come back on Mr. Daywood? Because hard to reach is a bit more than just young people.
Yes, that's what I was going to say in terms of, you could break it down further in terms of young people and kind of economic backgrounds, education, aspirations that they come from. So it's a large range. But in terms of our diverse communities, just wondering how you would engage, because Leicester City and across, there's diverse communities with different needs. So your views on that would be great.
Yep, certainly. Well, I'm Leicester born and bred, live in Wigston at the moment, so I'm very familiar with Leicester and its diverse communities and the needs of them. Having run political campaigns here and abroad, I'm aware that you need to appeal to absolutely everyone and understand the issues. I used to go out with Rupert whenever he was meeting people in churches, mosques, gurdwaras, etc. I'm no stranger to talking to, representing and bringing in people from any community. Previously, I'm not sure what's happened with it now or where it's moved, but things like the Commissioners Advisory Group I helped set up last time, which again was directed at bringing in people from all sorts of different backgrounds to advise Rupert and keep him abreast of developments in all different sectors of the city and the wider counties.
Okay, thank you, Oliver. Okay, thank you. Councillor Ellison, welcome.
Hi, Oliver. Can you provide an example that demonstrates your ability to lead change and to inspire colleagues to do things differently? And what was your role in that change process?
So most recently with CAMRA, a campaign for ELA, for those that don't know, pardon me, I changed the first thing I changed was their press office functions. They're, at the end of the day, a campaigning organisation. And whilst they're volunteer-led, it's the job of people employed by CAMRA to kick up the biggest stink possible and try and get some policy wins from government. As part of that, I thought an effective press operation is essential. That meant that I probably lost some popularity by bringing the morning meetings a bit earlier to make sure that we can respond to things more effectively and quickly. And as part of that, it meant that I would have to find out the best skill sets in the team that I was leading, teach them the media landscape of the UK, bring them on a bit, give them a bit of responsibility for different areas and share some of the load in terms of monitoring the press reports, what's relevant to us, how might this be relevant, what's our policy angle, which basically put us in a better position to get more quotes out in the media. Our national media coverage under my tenure went up, even as we had the difficulty of having moved our national Great British Beer Festival to Birmingham when it's usually in London. We still managed to maintain decent press coverage as well. So that was where I led some change, which had a very positive influence on the organisation, and at the same time brought some of the more junior members of the team along with me.
Thank you. I doubt there'll be a supplementary to that one. So, Councillor Lloydell.
Thank you again, Chairman. Partnership working, that's close to my heart. I'm sure, I know it is with Commissioner. And unfortunately, we now have to talk about the economic situation experienced by the public sector, as we all know, has led to a greater emphasis on partnership working and shared services. What experience are you bringing to this role, which enables you to work with partners in an effective manner at a time when there's severely constrained resources? Thank you.
Thank you. Any campaign is always needing of more resource and more time and money and people. So being able to manage some of those across counties and countries has proved quite difficult. I'm no stranger to managing a tight budget and getting the best out of teams and expanding the workload to include partners. CAMRA is another great example of this. There's no point in us making the same points that are being made by other people that effectively want the same thing. By that, for instance, the Society of Independent Brewers is very similar to us in terms of what they ask in terms of beer duty and getting better access for more independent brewers. They can do some of the heavy lifting on that stuff. It's about finding the most effective and efficient way that we can build a relationship with one another and coordinate our strategies to have the most effective campaigning angle. To the wider point about the need for partnership working, it's basically all I've ever done in every job that I've had. It's been an integral part of it. And within this context, you know, to have impact here in Leicestershire, we need to have every facet at our disposal. That's the CSPs, that's the councils, that's various regional bodies, and that's also why I've got the job that I've got, or why I've got the remit that Rupert's given me. It's the lobbying and the engagement that comes, if it doesn't sound too awful to say, it's naturally to me. To have effect here, we need to make sure that we're making the right case, both locally and nationally, and to the government. They're the ones that at the end of the day control the purse strings, and we all know about the unfair funding formula that Leicestershire and Rutland get in virtually every aspect. I hope that pretty soon we can see some change on that front. I'm not obviously promising the world, but I mean that you'll have a very effective advocate in Rupert and myself in that angle.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman. No, so thank you. Now, it's more or less answered the supplementary anyway.
We move on then. So we're doing well for time. So ball comes back to me. So I do re-emphasise, Oliver, that we will regurgitate and revisit the same questions, areas, but in slightly different ways. So what skills are you offering to this role that will help ensure that substantial changes or decisions taken by the Police and Crime Commissioner are communicated effectively to both staff and partners? You demonstrated your ability to lobby and engage, so the floor is yours.
Well, like you say, hopefully I'll try not to regurgitate too much, but the only thing that I'll add again is that many of the partners that do work with the OPCC and many of its processes remain pretty similar to when I last left. So in terms of learning and picking up some of the slack that Rupert may throw my way, that's a fairly easy transition, and I can hit the ground running with that. It would be great to see people again and get to re-engage with all the aspects of the office and the good work that it does. That would be the other thing that I've neglected to say thus far. But another aspect of the role is making sure that the great work that the OPCC does and the team does is out there and people know about it, because it really does do some great work. You all know about it, but then you're political junkies and it's your job to follow it. But hopefully we can get it out there beyond these meetings.
Okay, thank you. So unfortunately, the next question was allocated to a member who isn't present. So with members' good grace, I'll take it. And no, I won't. Mr. Woodman, you've been quiet this time. So can I hand this one to you?
Thank you, Chair. Can you explain your understanding of the terms operational independence and personal independence?
Yep. Detach personal belief from the job is what it comes down to. With the Taxpayers Union and with CAMRA, whatever personal beliefs I've got do not help me do the job of trying to get some policy changes. In New Zealand, I had to work with a transition of government. With CAMRA, I've had to work with transition of government as well. It comes fairly naturally, and of course I've already alluded to Rupert's the party Rupert belongs to is not the same as the national government, and you all represent a very wide array of different parties around here. So it's about detaching the personal belief from the job is how I see it. And if you're wondering where I come from on that front, my political vim and vigour, much like most of the country, I suspect, is on its last leg. So when it comes to partisanship and bias in that sense, I'm not that interested. I'm more interested in the job. As for the OPCC and the PCC more generally, it's about never interfering with the operational policing. It's the purely strategic oversight. The Chief Constable, or in this case, the Temporary Chief Constable, is responsible for the force and how they act. We hold them to account, you hold us to account.
Okay, thank you. I think that's already answered this supplementary anyway. So thank you for that, Oliver. We're back to you, Councillor Cook-Kelvin, please.
Thank you, Chair. How would you handle the situation? I mean, it kind of goes back to my last question a bit, but how would you handle a situation where the PCC wanted to follow a particular course of action, but you personally felt it was unwise?
I think I'd refer to my previous answer on that. I would voice my concerns to Rupert directly on a one-on-one basis. I would explain thoroughly why I disagree with the course of action, but at the end of the day, so long as it is aiming for what the police and crime plan has set out to do, that is his job, and I'm there to support him.
You want the supplementary, Ali?
How far would you go to pursue giving your advice where it might be unwelcome?
I think, again, this is where the firmly established relationship between the two of us goes. Fairly forthrightly, I would say.
Thank you. Mr. Mullaney, please.
Thank you. How do you ensure that you act fairly across the county, city and Rutland to ensure they get an equal focus in the role of DPPC?
I think that comes back to effective engagement. If you're not treating everyone equally fairly in terms of your time and your effort, then you're not doing the engagement properly. It's also being, again, the openness, the transparency and the accountability. If people don't feel that they're getting a good hearing from you, then they should be in a position to tell you. If they're not, then there's a problem. Hopefully that isn't the case here. And going back to my previous role with Rupert, we instituted the community days. I understand that some of you have concerns around that, but nevertheless, I think it would be a very difficult sell to say that Rupert is not out there meeting people like yourselves or members of the community. He does his damnedest to get out there and make sure that every aspect of Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland sees him, knows he's there and can get in touch with him if they've got a problem relating to policing in the wider LLR area.
Mr. Oliver, can I just, this is about you, not the Policing Commissioner himself. So this is about how you will ensure equity across.
Yes, and my point there was that I'm supporting Rupert and the things that he's done and the things he intends to do. That, as far as I see, is my job. I support Rupert.
Okay, thank you. You'll be very pleased, perhaps delighted to know that the last question, Councillor Blackshaw.
Thank you, Chair. At the end of your term of office, how will we know whether you've been a success, and on what criteria should we judge your performance in the role?
I think it should be a running tally, if you like, because we'll be coming back here and presenting what we're doing throughout the term of office anyway to yourselves. But let's see at the end of the term. Rupert's got very clear priorities set out in his police and crime plan. We will be sticking to that. We'll be sticking to the aims of that, and it's proved successful. I can't reel off all the various statistics off the top of my head, but I know how successful it's been to date, and I'm sure it will continue to be so.
Oliver, can I just pick up a very short supplementary? So you're familiar, very familiar with the Commissioner's Police and Crime Plan. On day one, given the free choice, which part of it would you like to run with from day one?
I think you may not like my selecting this insofar as I don't have an awful lot of experience with it, but I think business crime is often a very overlooked one, and the one that is very much on the front line of things like shoplifting and feels the brunt of a lack of visible policing and or patrols. I think it seeps into an awful lot of other areas. I think if you can reassure the business community and thereby shoppers that they are safe and free to act as within the realms of their job or whatever, I would say that business crime is often overlooked and it feeds into all other aspects of crime.
Interesting. Thank you. That feels like you've almost read my CV. Having had a very long, intimate relationship with the small business community. So
I think I know my first meeting then.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of your hearing. Thank you, Oliver. So we do now go into closed session. So we can invite all members of the Police and Crime Commission and any members of the public present to Damien's going to stop the live streaming. Oh, I beg your pardon. I've got to read it out. I beg your pardon. All right. I move that under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded for the following item of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined by the paragraphs of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1973, and in all circumstances of the case, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Is everybody agreed? Please say yes. Good. Right. Right, thank you all, and welcome, Reverend. We are now back in public session. We are live streaming, Mr. Davis. So we are on now agenda item 8, the confirmation hearing for the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner Criminal Justice, pages 21 to 36 in your agenda pack, and it's Reverend Gwyn Davis. I'm now going to invite Police and Crime Commissioner to introduce your candidate, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, this is the second of the 3 candidates for the job share. The role I'm asking the Reverend Davies to do is quite distinct from that of the other 2, so there won't be any overlap. I'm asking Reverend Davies to look after the local criminal justice liaison and work with other partners in that area that we need to do. Again, I've known the Reverend Davies for some years. When I first met him, he was sitting as a magistrate, and from conversations with him at that time, I was struck by the curiosity which he exhibited about how the system worked. So he wasn't content just to turn up, deal with the case in front of him, make a decision, go home again. From conversations with him, I know that he was really interested in how the criminal justice system operated, what the pressures were on it, what the different roles within the criminal justice system were, and how they interacted with each other. So I'm confident that he has got enough of a background in criminal justice system to have already got his feet under the table, if I can use that metaphor, and hit the ground running, which is a dreadful mix of metaphor, but I hope you know what I mean. Of course, the role he'll be taking on involves a lot of partnership work. And I think, again, if I could flag up from conversations with him in the past when we weren't preparing for this role, when we were just chatting about various other things, his role in the South Leicester Christian Partnership and the work he does on an ecumenical basis with representatives of other denominations. I will preempt perhaps a question from Councillor Daewoo about the broad range of different communities that we have across the city and 2 counties. But I would ask this panel to not underestimate the differences that there can be between different denominations within the Christian faith. My grandfather, for instance, to the day he died, absolutely would not enter a Catholic church due to some differences that he had with that institution. And so I know you're keen to get on and ask the Reverend your questions. So I would just reiterate, he's no longer a magistrate, so there isn't a conflict of interest there. But I was impressed in the time when he was a magistrate with his breadth of knowledge, his curiosity, his intellectual interest in the whole system and how it was working, plus, of course, his work with other partners, some of whom I'm sure take very different views to the Reverend on theological matters, and yet manages to work with them for the benefit of the community as a whole. So again, I have no hesitation in putting forward the Reverend Davies for the role which I have in mind for him, which is that of looking after the criminal justice partners and dealing with them on a regular basis. So of course, I am the Police and Crime Commissioner. At the end of the day, it's my responsibility, and if there are any issues where he needs me to step in, I'm sure he will ask me, and I have confidence in his judgment to decide when those may occur. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. So just clarity, and so your preferred name, is it Reverend Davies, Gwyn, Mr. Davies?
Gwyn is absolutely fine. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. So the way this works, Gwyn, is members around the panel have a series of set questions that have been defined and designed over a number of years. We work through that. Some have got supplementaries, some we may jump. By definition and default, in answering one question, you'll automatically answer all or part of another question. So you will get a bit of duplication going through. So first question, Councillor Blackshaw.
Thank you, Chair. Gwyn, what has attracted you to the role at this time?
Thank you. Well, I must say that it was more a case of I was chatting informally to Rupert, and Rupert brought up the notion of my being suitable for the role. It hadn't been something I had thought about, and I said I'd need time to ponder it, which I did. And I suppose at first I was perhaps tending towards this might not be for me, but as sort of I did take time, and I thought, learned a little bit more about the role. I thought, well, yeah, it might be something I can do, and yeah, so the more I thought about it, the more I became attracted to the role. So it was more an indirect attraction.
Thank you. Mr. Mullaney, please.
So within your career to date, can you highlight similar roles, experiences that have prepared you for this DPCC role?
Thank you. Well, as Rupert indicated, the role putting me forward for is really quite a specific role, which would mainly be working with the partners and chairing the Criminal Justice Board. So this notion of a number of separate entities coming together as one would provide, I suppose, similarities to chairing the South Leicester Christian Partnership, where obviously it's a different field, but a number of different churches and church leaders, all with varying ideas theologically and politically and socially, but coming together as one. So managing the individual people who are in turn managing the individual organisations.
Thank you, Gwyn. Mr. Woodman.
But yes, I mean, can you tell us a time you've had to manage a challenging situation within a public-facing role, and what did you learn as a result?
Not necessarily public-facing, but I'll try and be, but there have been quite serious theological splits in the Christian group in South Leicestershire. We all have quite varying opinions and interpretations, and I would certainly be seen on the side of perhaps one of the more minority views, but it was just working with those people for the greater good rather than sticking to what one's own belief and church would want. And that can be quite difficult because we all have our own understandings and beliefs on all sorts of matters. And, you know, sometimes we have to understand that they are, or they form just one part of a greater whole. And it can be difficult. And I don't doubt there will be difficulties ahead, but forming personal relationships with individuals, I think, helps enormously. You know, rather than seeing people as a representative of an organisation, to actually that personal touch can help incredibly. But thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Gwyn. Councillor Cook-Kelvin, please.
Thank you. I'm sort of looking at Appendix D, which is your job description, and just wondered if you could sort of articulate how you can demonstrate the skills and the ability to carry out these responsibilities.
Well, again, I'd say it's very much working with people, which I would say that is one of my key skills, understanding that each individual represents a certain organization or partner, and will come to the table with their priorities, but at the same time understanding the whole, the board, the forum, to focus on, again, the greater goal. And again, I can't sit here and claim this is going to be an easy role, because it's not, because each of the partners and the representatives of them will come with their own agenda, and it's almost understanding that and understanding why they all push in the way they do, but at the same time looking for commonality and ultimately for the good of justice, good and fair justice for all.
Thank you, Gwen. Do you want to put that supplementary, Ali?
Yeah, if I can just shape it. I think what stands out for me is you've got a vast amount of experience in terms of convening, but not necessarily within this sort of criminal justice world. And so what do you think, one, you will bring to that, but then also what additional support you will need to understand, essentially what is a new world?
No, I thank you for that question, and it really is, and this was one of the points, as I said, when Rupert first asked me. I believed and believe that I have the skills on a general level, but you're absolutely right. I am entering a new world. My experience comes from my direct experience, as it were, from my time on the bench as a magistrate, but that's only one thread of the whole. So it will be new to me. So I don't have any experience, but you are right. So I think I've got the general skills, but I will have to learn, and I don't doubt the support will come from the PCC and the team, and I will be relying on that.
Thank you, Gwen. Councillor Lloydell, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Gwen, for attending today. Thank you. The question is, what do you believe should be the relationship between the OPCC and the PCP, which is the Police and Crime Panel? Please.
I think it should be one of sort of paradox almost. On one hand, there has to be a very, very good relationship, but on the other hand, must remain remote, to use a term, and sort of take that aerial view of understanding, and I keep turning to this, understanding the whole through relationships with the individuals. So we all are what we are, and I think it's right for us to be natural, and I am quite an open and natural person, so that would come through on an individual level, but at the same time, when chairing the Criminal Justice Board, I think at the same time you have to sit above that during the board meetings.
Quickly, supplementary, perhaps put it in a way that suggests that would you be able to seek further developments with this relationship, and perhaps how will you go about it?
Sorry, can you just repeat that? I'm not quite sure.
Following from the question that we just talked about, the development, the relationship between the two, it's how would you consider to be able to further develop that in relation to two teams? They've got the PCC and you've got yourself, and you want to develop something. How would you go about perhaps developing that relationship?
Well, I think as with everything, relationships develop over time, and I think they develop or can develop in two ways. They can develop naturally. The longer period of time you spend with an individual and organisation, that relationship builds, but there can also be an intentional building which comes from perhaps an inquisitiveness, and you know, again, going back to the previous question, my direct experiences through the magistrates and sitting on the bench, and as Rupert alluded, that's given me a great inquisitiveness to find out, and I think that can be positive, but at the same time it can be negative. I will want to find perhaps naturally delve too deeply into each of the partners, and that's natural. So I think again it's that balance, understanding what each of the partners brings to the board, and getting a depth of understanding without taking focus away again from the whole.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Wynne.
Thank you. So we moving into working with communities, but very specific area that we want to explore, please. And the question lies with myself. It's, can you demonstrate a time when you have involved or engaged with stakeholders to ensure that they've been able to influence policing and crime issues? Which, if the answer is I can't, that's fine.
The answer is I can't, but I was going to say I have not specific stakeholders. I have in the past informally represented the voice of Christians to the police, but I don't think that's as near as I can answer your question, Chair.
No, that's fine, Gwyn. It's almost looking at your career summary. It's kind of what I was expecting, so that's absolutely fine. So I'll ask a slightly different question then, and it's given the independence of the Police and Crime Commissioner's role and his responsibility to 1.1 million people, the wider electorate anyway. What examples can you give of how you've had to be accountable for the delivery of a particular policy to the general public? And that might be your congregational general public, so you know, I'll leave the answer with you.
Thank you again, Chair. That's quite a difficult one to ask for various reasons. We, as a non-conformist church, are independent, so we don't have any hierarchical layers above us. So at a church level, all of our decisions are made at a church meeting in which each church member has a single vote. And I am considered a church member. so when I say there's no hierarchy, even within the church. So are any decisions made are made congregationally as one. So there wouldn't have been any instance where perhaps something would have come down from the equivalent of a bishop or a diocese, and I've had to. So I can't really answer that.
That's fine. That's the whole purpose of a Q&A session is we panel ask questions and the candidate answers them. Right. Councillor David, please.
Mr. Matthews mentioned something, and I apologise. I wasn't paying attention. I was doing notes. Sorry about it. Yeah, I know. You referred to my question. I'm just wanted some clarity on that before I ask my question. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. No, that was me, not the Reverend. Over the past months when we've been here, many of your questions have been relating to the highly diverse communities that we have across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. I should perhaps not taking your name in vain, if I may. So I was making the point that the Reverend's work with the South Leicester Ecumenical Council was completely within the Christian faith. But I was highlighting that there are very great differences, both theologically and organisationally and so on, within the Christian faith. And so by working across the different denominations within the Christian faith, the Reverend has exhibited the sort of skills that you need to work with very diverse communities, albeit it's all within a wider Christian community, but there are some stark differences. As indeed there are within the Muslim faith between the Shia and the Sunni and the Ishmaelite and what have you. So I shouldn't perhaps have taken your name in vain. I do apologise, Councillor. Thank you. Mr. Dode, your question, please.
No, thanks, Chair. I'll pay more attention next time. No, I'm glad because I sort of misunderstood. I thought the assumption was that just one particular faith was the same, and I just want to clarify that all religions have different, and we can have theological debates all day long, I think, as well. And one of the interesting things, Darwood is the pronunciation of my name, which is David in Christianity, by the way. Yeah. Your role in I've got a question. Your role includes taking into account the needs of diverse and hard to reach communities across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. Can you provide an example which demonstrates your ability to engage with this range of groups and produce tangible results?
Thank you, Councillor. I was speaking to a couple informally, a couple of you before these meetings began, and I did mention similarities between being a minister and a councillor, in as much as you all no doubt have surgeries or meet where people come to you, but as you're known in your communities, I don't doubt people also approach you in the street, and dressed like this, people approach me. I'm approached all the time, and one of the communities which I think over the past sort of 10 or so years I've grown closest to would be the homeless. A lot, if I'm in Leicester, will approach me and chat about a whole range of subjects, and their whole way of life is perhaps just so different to ours, and it's very hard to understand, and it's very easy for them to be neglected in a lot of ways. So certainly the homeless, the elderly, I have a lot of interaction with the elderly, and it always strikes me that quite a large number I speak to won't go into the city centre anymore because they don't feel safe. And I think what shocks me most about that is it just seems to be accepted. Nothing seems to be done about it. And then, of course, in Leicester, we've got just an incredible diversity of faith and race. And as the councillor quite rightly, and I'm glad you did point out that it's so easy for us to talk of Christians or Muslims or as one homogenous group, but within each of these sort of wider groups, there's a myriad of differences in every way. And yeah, I think it's understanding that, and also understanding difference. You're theologically we will be different, but being able to have an open, rational conversation, and I think that's what's missing. Well, I would argue it's missing in modern life generally.
Thank you, Glyn. If your appointment goes forward, I suggest you speak to the Police and Crime Commissioner about city centre safety. Part of his role. Calling cheap, but I couldn't resist that one, members. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ellison, please.
I'm sorry I was late. I had to move my car. My question is, can you provide an example that demonstrates your ability to lead change and to inspire colleagues to do things differently? And what was your role in that change process?
Within the church, we're quite traditional, and change is very, very slow. I have worked with various other people. We're certainly working. It's changed slightly now, but with the football club, with Leicester City, there were. I'm trying to think. Probably, I'm not very good at 7 years ago or so. Sort of fora set up for things like diversity, inclusion, disability, and we worked with various groups to make, I know it's a dreadful modern term, but the match day experience more welcoming. And one of the, and again, we talk about disability, and it's easy to think of people in wheelchair and people who are hard of hearing, but it transpired that one of the most common disabilities that prevented people going was the ability to reach a toilet. And we formed a scheme where the nearest steward would know and identify you, and all you had to do was, and you'd be taken, and that has helped people return to the ground who previously perhaps weren't able to.
Well done you for that. Well done. Excellent. Right, partnership working. So, Councillor Lloydell, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Again, this is close to my heart, partnership working. I strongly believe in that, as indeed Rupert does. But also there's an economic situation here, as I'm sure we are aware of. The question is quite simple, really. The economic situation experienced by all public sector organisations has led to a greater emphasis on partnership working and shared services. What experience are you bringing to the role which enables you to work with partners in an effective manner at a time of severely constrained resources? Please.
Thank you. And again, when I was pondering the role when Rupert proposed it to me, that was one of the first points I thought of. All these partners coming around the table. When I asked them they're going to come straight away to money and finance and funding, and again, it's a case of looking at not a lot maybe we can do about that, but looking at commonality, overlap, and finding ways, perhaps even of sharing knowledge and experience, because all of these partners are different, but within them all there will be similarities and overlaps. And unless everyone comes together on an open forum, we can't identify those overlaps and the commonality. And I think the first or one of the first jobs will be to identify and problems and share good practice.
Quick deliberation with the officer to my left. So thank you. I think, Mr. Woodman, that supplementary has probably been captured, but your choice. Okay, thank you. So back to me then. Wynne, we're still on partnership working. What skills are you offering to this role that will help ensure that substantial changes or decisions taken by the Police and Crime Commissioner are communicated effectively to staff and partners?
I'd like to think I'm incredibly committed and dedicated and thorough. So again, the lines of communication will all be new to me. So my one of the first jobs would be to create the communication, and then within that have a robust framework of reporting, both downwards and indeed back to the PCC.
Thank you. So we're now moving into perhaps one of the more challenging areas. So it's personal independence. So Councillor Woodman, can you pick this up, please?
Thank you, Chair. Can you explain your understanding of the term operational independence and personal independence?
Well, I think personal independence is something which a minister in the non-conformist tradition is well steeped in. I have what I would describe as incredibly strong, independent views, and I think part of the challenge will be, as with any forum, sticking and understanding those views, but at the same time understanding and appreciating, in the same way as I said I have my independent views, everyone around this room has their independent views, and it's understanding and pushing those to a point without impinging on the good of the whole. So I think integrity to the self is very important. And then what? Sorry, what? That was the independent and was it the operational? The
operational independence and personal independence.
Yeah. So personal independence and operational independence. Again, I would say that we have to. I would be representing the PCC, and we are all here for the good of the whole. So I would be a representative of the PCC within a larger forum.
If you want to.
Thanks for that. just cover off a supplementary. How would these apply to a relationship between the OPCC and the Chief Constable, and how the separation of powers should be maintained?
It certainly wouldn't be up to me to tell the police constable how to police. So I think I don't mean that sort of harshly. Everybody has their job and their role, the police along with the other partners, and we have to have fully trust and back them to do that, yet at the same time take the direction from the PCC and guide in a togetherness.
Okay, thank you. Right, we move on. So, Councillor Cook-Kelvin, please.
Thank you, Chair. I really like what you said about sort of the integrity to the self. And I suppose in that vein, how would you handle a situation where the Police Crime Commissioner wanted to follow a particular course of action, but you felt it was unwise?
And again, that's certainly something that could well happen in any relationship. And Rupert's laughing, but you know, it really could in any relationship. And again, you have to I have to remain true to the self. And I mean, I'm quite sure, knowing Rupert, we'd be having an informal cup of tea, and I would lay out, these are my beliefs and the reasons for them, and listen to a counter argument. And ultimately, I'm here as, or would be here as a deputy, but there would still be an onus on me for the greater good of what I would deem the truth. If I thought Rupert was doing something, as you say, unwise, or I'm not going to say incorrect because that wouldn't happen, Rupert. But I mean, I'd certainly put my case across.
Do you want to pick the supplementary up to that, Ellie?
Yeah, I think how far would you go in pursuing giving advice where it might be unwelcome? And yeah, I mean, there have been questions about some of Mr. Matthews' public behaviour. I don't know about operationally, but per se, but there has been some challenge on his behaviour. So how far would you go in pursuing that?
That's difficult to say without sort of. You give me a theoretical example, but I couldn't. I mean, it really. If I think this is what you're asking, if Rupert behaved in a way which I simply couldn't accept, then I simply couldn't accept it. And I can't imagine that happening, but I can't compromise my own integrity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a good answer, I think. So, Mr. Mullaney, please.
Thank you. How do you ensure that you act fairly across the county, city and Rutland to ensure they get an equal focus in the role of the DPCC?
Thank you. That's again something I thought of, because I think naturally, and again, all of us, we are as individuals, my life revolves around me, as it were. I don't mean in an egotistical way, but we all view through our own eyes and live through our own experience. So it's very, very easy to fall into the trap on focusing on those areas which I know, which would be sort of Stonygate, Wigston, Market Harborough. And I think it would have to be a conscious decision I would naturally, I would veer to what I know. So I think I'd have to be conscious not to do that. And again, across the team, I think that's something we've all got to be aware of, because it's so easy to start focusing on one area for the detriment of others.
Okay, thank you, Gwyn. You'll be very pleased to know that we're getting to the end of the Q&A session with you. Before I just hand over to Councillor Blackshaw for the final question, I've got one very specific question for you. So the Police and Crime Commissioner has a police and crime plan. That's what this is all about, and the delivery of that police and crime plan. So you've been appointed. You start day one. What of all the things in that police and crime plan would be the thing that you would most want to hit the ground running with?
I think really just, and this isn't, I don't know if you're looking for a specific one, but more generally, just to get all the partners working together, because I understand there can be, and again, I'll choose my words carefully. There can always be friction, certain people pushing for certain things, get everyone pushing in the same direction for a true and fair justice for all. And again, harking back to my time as the magistrate, and it shouldn't happen, but time and time again, we often forget the victims. And I think the victims of crime are incredibly important, and how the crime impinges upon the victims.
Thank you. Councillor Blackshaw.
Thank you, Chair. So at the end of your term of office, how will we know whether you've been a success or not? What criteria should we judge your performance on?
I personally, in the specific role I'm being asked to fill, I would be more than happy for you as a panel to judge my performance on the belief of all the partners on the Criminal Justice Board.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Gwyn. I now have to read a piece here. So I move that under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public can be excluded for the following item of business. Is everybody agreed? Thank you. The panel will now go into a closed session, Gwyn, to make a decision. The chairman of the panel will write to the Police and Crime Commissioner following the confirmation hearing to outline the decision and any recommendations of the panel. And you will also be sent a letter of that, a copy of that letter. So thank you, Gwyn, and wherever you live, have a safe travel home.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Just waiting for the stream to go live. Okay, thank you. We are live streaming now, members and Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner. So welcome, Neetu. Right, so we are now on agenda item 11, the confirmation hearing for the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner, Community Cohesion, Neetu Squire, pages 37 to 52 in your agenda pack. Mr. Matthews, we hand the floor over to you to introduce your candidate, please.
Thank you, Chair. Neetu is the third of the candidates I'm putting forward for a role within the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner. As one of the, I was going to say triumvirate, but I don't, trio, I think is probably a better, more accurate word to use, of those who will be job sharing the role of Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner, as I've already explained to the panel. Each will have a specific role to follow, so they won't be, if you like, all job sharing the same bit. They're going to be each doing their own role. As members of this panel will know, I take extremely seriously my job of knowing and understanding the communities that I serve. Each of you as councillors will be responsible to several thousand people who live within the wards that you represent. I have the great challenge of representing well over 1 million people, and that, as I'm sure everyone can imagine, is quite a challenging thing to do. We have highly diverse communities across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, from inner city, very urban communities that have crime problems which are more usually associated with big cities such as London or Manchester, right the way through suburbia of various kinds to market towns, and to very rural villages, some of which are little more than a hamlet with a scattering of houses that don't even have a shop or a church or a pub to their name. So it is a highly diverse area to which I am responsible. As you members of the panel will know, I spend a lot of time getting out into the communities, meeting people, talking to people about the various problems that relate to crime and disorder. I've always found that the most challenging part of that is not just the meeting people. I think empathy is probably the word I'm looking for. Getting to know and understand different communities, what their views are, what their concerns are, what they're looking for from myself as Police and Crime Commissioner, from the police, from the criminal justice system more widely. And one of the things that I suppose I sort of knew anyway, but since taking up the role of Police and Crime Commissioner has become thrown into really sharp focus, is that it isn't always the obvious person in a community who is best placed to help me to get empathy with the community and to understand where the people in that community come from. It isn't always, if you like, the managing director who can tell you what the culture in a company is. Sometimes it's the bloke who works in the post room and wanders round delivering internal posts and chats to everyone, who would be better placed to do that. That's why I've invited Neetu to come on board for 1 day a week as part of this job share role. I've come across Neetu many times when I've been out and about meeting people in the community, and I've always been struck both by her wide range of contacts in many different communities, with her passion for improving the lives of those within our community, not always to do with crime or with law and order, very often to do with deprivation of those who live in our more underprivileged communities and underprivileged areas. But above all, with her natural way in which she makes contact with and gets to know all different people within lots of different communities. And that's why I've asked her to come on board. I'm sure she will help me to make contact with the people I need to make contact with in order to understand our various communities. As I say, it's not always the person who holds an important position who is best placed to explain the feelings and motivation and culture of a community. I believe Nitu does know that. She does know the people who I need to meet. She does know empathetically how I need to behave and who I need to get to know in order to be able to do my job properly of understanding our different communities. And I therefore have no hesitation in commending Nitu Squires to you to fulfil that role within the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner as part of the job share arrangement for the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. So, Nitu, the way this basically works is we have a set of fixed questions which will go around the panel. Unfortunately, a couple of members have had to shoot off to another meeting that they cannot not attend. There may then be supplementary questions following the primary question, and by default and definition, in some of your answers, you are likely to answer questions further down the list. So there will undoubtedly be some duplication, regurgitation of the same kind of theme. If that happens, if you could pick another sort of example, that would be really helpful for the panel. We start off with Councillor Blackshaw, professional competence.
Thank you very much. Do you prefer Nitu or Ms. Squires or Nitu's? Okay, Nitu. What has attracted you to the role of the DPCC for Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland at this time?
So I've known Rupert for quite some time now, and you know, I've already introduced him to like the community groups and bringing him on board and saying, look, Rupert, you need to come and see, you know, this community group. I need you to talk at this event. So when it sort of come up, we sort of had a discussion at the police headquarters, and I said, you know what, I'd be really great at the community cohesion part of it, because I've got a real passion for it and I've got a real drive to build the gap and build the bridges. And I know that's still outstanding with a lot of, you know, underrepresented communities that have a barrier with the police. And I feel I can be that bridge, I can be that gap towards that, because I've done it already. I work very closely with the police and I work closely with the community cohesion team already. And we've done a lot of work over the 3 years of what I've been doing in the community already. So for me, I'm only enhancing this, and obviously putting a higher profile on with Rupert as well. And that's what I wanted to do, and that's what attracted me to do it, to think actually with Rupert and me, we would actually have a great duo going on and would complement each other in actually making it better in the sense of within the community and what we need to do to bridge that gap. So it's really being a bit in a high position to be able to do that, just to cut it short.
Thank you, Nisi. So just out of pure interest, and bear in mind we are live streamed, so don't give too much away. We've got your written summary here of experience. Broadly, whereabouts has that been? Has it been Leicester City? Is it where has it been?
My experience of what knowing the communities, or mainly city. I'm very, very strong in the city, not so much in the county, little bit in the county, but not so much. But that's something that I want to do, grow and, you know, get to learn a little bit more. But I do have contacts in the county where I know I can tap into to enhance that for myself.
Right, so the community cohesion team is the city.
Yes, that's the city East team, so East Leicester Police.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Michael, Ms. Mulaney.
Thank you. Within your career to date, can you highlight similar roles, experiences that have prepared you for this DPCC role? Within your existing careers, can you highlight similar roles and experiences that will prepare you for this role?
So my background is I've worked in the youth service, and I'm originally from Nottingham, so I've developed youth services in Nottingham, managed a team there, also worked at 16 plus social services, had to go into probation, so work with the workers in probation with some of like the youth justice team, worked in hostels, worked in a mother and baby unit. So I've got quite a vast majority of experience in dealing with different settings and different professionals. So I think the niche was for the last 6 years working for a charity. That's really put me in sort of the ground, I would say the grounds of what really happens in Leicester. And that's probably made me more experienced in able to deliver new initiatives and new programs to enhance what they're delivering in the community, i.e., taking the youth off the streets, doing crime prevention work, getting sort of youth into education, employment and training, working with stakeholders, working with professionals to enhance also what they're delivering as well. So I think my vast experience has given me little pockets of knowledge to enable me to pass that on.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Woodman, you have an opportunity for a supplementary.
Thank you, Chair. Can you just following on from that, can you tell us about a time where you've had to manage a challenging situation within a public-facing role, and what did you learn as a result?
The challenging situation we had was actually when we had the disorders here in Leicester, and there was a lot of fake news, a lot of fake things going around on social media, and a lot of the community and the youth got involved with that, who obviously I was very familiar with. Now the challenges was listening to what we had to say. What do you know? As they do, you don't know, this is what's going on, especially with the Hindus and the Muslims. And that was really challenging time for me because they just weren't listening at all and getting involved. And I said, do you know the consequences of you getting involved in this, you posting things, you doing all kinds of stuff? To cut this short, I partnered with quite professional stakeholders and again, the community cohesion team. And at that particular time, we did our very first event in the Durham community, which was called Connecting Communities. And we got everyone together to say, we're united, we're not having this. And it was the first event that actually happened in that community for the first time. It's never happened before. And not only that, we did a second event in a Gurdwara, where again, we had the same kind of people gathering around to say, we're not doing this. And that was the first time we kind of had a little bit of calm within what we knew with the youth and the professionals. And till this day, if I'm correct, the collaboration of the professionals that we had in that community are still delivering in that centre, in that area. So it just goes to show with that collaboration is key for me. Things can only enhance and happen when we collaborate together. And when it happens, it's a beautiful thing and it will progress. So I'm a bit about sustainability. I don't want a one-off hit just because I'm tick boxing. Don't do it. I want that sustainability and how we're going to sustain that. And that was a big challenge, but it was such a positive outcome at the end of it as well.
Thank you, Neetu. I'm going to jump to not the primary question, but the supplementary question, which would have been asked by one of the absent members. So I think you partly answered it already, but if you perhaps just expand a little bit. In what way does your skill set and experience complement that of the Police and Crime Commissioner, and how will you contribute towards a safer force area?
I think my knowledge and my contacts and my collaboration with who I know makes a massive impact. And bringing Rupert into that will only enhance this. I think also, what was the other part of it? Sorry.
Safer force area. I think the East Leicester bit
bridging that gap, because a lot of the grassroots, and I will say the grassroots community, do not want to get involved, even though Leicestershire Police PCC is answerable to Leicester Police is answerable to OPCC, but it doesn't matter. They see it as one umbrella. So it's breaking down the barriers, breaking down the stigma, them understanding the actual role itself. And I think that's where I will come into it. I think really what I see is me enhancing it and bridging that gap. And again, working with the Leicestershire Police Community Cohesion team to do this. So again, when I mean that, it means them coming in with that uniform on, them actually also getting to know the community, them going back to, the beat officers and saying, this is what's happening in the area. Are you aware of this? I'm in the heart of Belgrave at the moment. I don't really, Golden Mile's beautiful. You think it's thriving, you think it's gorgeous. Come off that. it's awful. You know, I'll be quite honest with you. And I never realised that until I started working in there, thinking there's no youth provision, there's hardly anything there, and that needs to be developed. So again, I took it upon myself to get in touch with the team and say, look, listen, do you know what's going on around here? You know, the ASB around here, the youth. I spoke to the youth. They said there's no provision for them to go to. So these are the things we will enhance and work on.
Thank you, Neetu. This is by no means any criticism of the current Police and Crime Commissioner. Rupert and I have known each other for quite a few years, one way or another. So from what you've just said, we're on our third Police and Crime Commissioner for LLR. I think you're suggesting that there's actually opportunities for any of the Police and Crime Commissioners that are still unexplored and can bring additional benefits to the society, if I interpret that right. No. The Police and Crime Commissioners themselves. So Rupert is number 3. So we started off with Clive Loader, then we had Lord Bark, now we've got Rupert. You were talking about bringing those, particularly Rupert, into those new communities. So is that effectively saying that over the decades, and this is not a criticism, it is just are there unexplored opportunities for the Commissioner's office to actually get more involved and more into the grassroots?
I think it's a bit of both. So if I'm going to be completely honest, and I think like I said, I've got a really good relationship with Rupert where I've contacted him many times, say, Rupert, I need you to talk to this, I need you to come here, and he has. And as far as I'm concerned, whatever I've asked, he's delivered. And that's my strong point that I want to make. You know, if I've said come into this boxing club, Rupert, you need to have a look at this, he has. And even though his time is very, very limited, he's been there, even if it's for 10 minutes. And I have to say that previously I can't comment, but in regards to the grassroots and some of the areas like New Parks, Braunston, no, they won't. And it's not because of Rupert or previous PCCs. I think it's because, again, they don't like the police. And because of their experiences with the police, it could have been they've had a horrible stop and search. They could have had, you know, I don't want to go into, but all kinds of issues and barriers. So if I was to say, okay, let's get the police in, the first, they'll be like, I don't think so, need to. You know what, can you leave as well? You know, so I know me being sort of in this role, I will say will be a little bit of a challenge for me. And I won't lie, because I think soon as certain people are aware, I think they'll be thinking which way she's swinging. But my argument will be, you know what, I'm still me and I'm here to help and I want to bridge that gap. And I think me and Rupert will do that because I think we'll complement each other on that. Because like I said, I've worked with him prior to coming here and we have made, you know, success of previous projects.
Thank you. Very eloquently put. Right. Councillor Lloydell, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
My question is, I think you may have answered some of it, so I'll just perhaps clarify for me if you would. It's quite simply, what do you believe should be the relationship between the OPC and the PCP, Police and Crime Plan? Thank you.
I think for me, honesty and transparency is really important to me, and being able to be honest about, you know, what I think or what's being fed back to me as well. So not being also in fear of anything that, you know, anyone that wants to say about any of the roles or any of the work that's being undertaken. So I think for me, it's very important, that honesty, transparency, and also, you know, a little bit of, you know, I have to say it's sort of friendship in a way, you know, because when you sort of have that, it's really important to me. So you can be professional, of course, but it's also having that understanding of the person and understanding where their passion and drive comes from.
It's not quite the question, Newt, Mr. Lloyd.
My fault. Saying it properly, so forgive me. Hello. It's the relationship between the office, the Police and Crime Commission, the relationship between the Police and Crime Panel, which is this panel here. Yeah, sorry, that's my apologies. I didn't count out properly.
So again, I'd go back to it. So the honesty and transparency between you guys, and I think you guys are there to scrutinise and have that scrutiny on the work that's being delivered. And I think for me, that's really important as well, because without you challenging us or challenging the work that we're delivering, who else is doing that? So yes, we have to be answerable, and I think it's important that Rupert and you guys have that relationship as well as us, really, as well.
Thank you very much for that answer. My apologies.
Thank you, guys. So falls to me again, now need to. So this is about working with communities, and I did warn you, we might sort of regurgitate and keep repeating the same things. So it might just be you embellish a little bit on some of that work and how you went about it, I guess. Because the question is, can you demonstrate a time when you have involved or engaged with stakeholders to ensure that they've been able to influence policing and crime issues? And I think possibly going back to your discussion about Leicester East and the troubles we had in that community. So how did you actually get in there and get the people all engaged? Because, you know, the police did some really good work down there. That stakeholder engagement is far better than it was. So what was your role in that bit, perhaps?
I think my role in that was to, there was obviously discussions. So we all got together and had discussions. There was lots of, you know, I'd have to say there was a lot of people that were like, you know, this isn't right. You know, Leicester's such a great place. You know, why is this happening? So we were sort of having the dialogue prior to then coming up with the idea of just saying, look, like, why don't we just put on some like connecting communities events to kind of show, you know, we're a little bit united. And how I was involved in that was getting them all involved. So asking them to say, look, would you be interested in doing this? Would you be interested in holding a stall? It was very difficult to have it in the Dublin community. I'm not going to lie. Those talks I must have happened 3 or 4 times. But again, it goes back to trust. So it goes back to your relationships with the community. It goes back to how they trust you. So a lot of the time, like I'll give you another example. The Hindu community and the St. Matthew's community have never met. And I remember the charity, the Hindu, they had their own charity anyway. Don't want to go into too much detail, but they basically said they've been born and bred in Leicester. They've never stepped foot in St. Matthew's, the heart of St. Matthew's. I said, are you kidding me? And do you know what? I said, I've got to make this happen. I said, I've just got to make it happen. And there must have been like 10 or 15 of them. So from the Hindu community, never stepped foot in St. Matthew's. Now, if you don't know St. Matthew's, it can be quite tribal, and you've got to get permission to even get in there. Took a lot of work because I got no's, and no's. And do you know what? I think, again, because I've been in St. Matthew's, they were like, who is she? Who's this female coming in? But you know what? I delivered and I earned the respect. So when I got in there, I said, look, this has never happened. Are you willing to, can we have this dialogue? Can they come in? Can we have tea, coffee, whatever it was? It happened. It took some time, but it happened. And I tell you what, it was such a beautiful thing to just see, because you know, they just spoke about each other's faith, what happened, we know all the delivery that happens in St. Matthew's, what they did as a charity. They actually supported doing food parcels and stuff in St. Matthew's as well to help some of the families that were struggling. So they actually collaborated and worked together. So it wasn't even just a discussion, they actually worked together, which was amazing. So I think for 6 weeks, they were actually dropping off food parcels to help the community in St. Matthew's. And I just thought, look at that. So, yeah.
Well done you. I'm Leicester born and bred. I'm clearly older than 20, so well done you. You'd be surprised. So thank you, Neetu. That was nice to hear. So just going to hand over to Councillor Basher.
Thank you, Chair. So you don't have to use the same examples again. You can expand on what you've already said, or you can use different examples. But this role is going to include taking into account the needs of the diverse and hard to reach communities across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. Can you provide an example which demonstrates your ability to engage with this wide range of different groups and produce tangible results?
I think, again, like, what I would do, so I'll use a completely different example of something I haven't done then compared to what I have done. So county, I'm not too hot on in regards to the community. A little bit, but not too much. So what I would do is obviously do some homework, do some research, go out there, make myself present, make Rupert present, know what we're doing, know what work we're going to deliver. And for me, I see my role as not just going out there and saying, look, this is who we are, but like I keep going on about it, and so I'm so passionate about it, it's enhancing what they're doing. So it could be, it's not just about the grants of VRN or PCC. I could say, have you looked at your ward councillors? Have you looked at your local businesses? So again, in my past role, I would connect with businesses, big corporate businesses, and use their corporate responsibility to put money back into our city. And that I really want to start doing again. So starting to approach businesses and saying, because they do have taxpayers' money, and to use a little piece of their pie to say, the boxing gym needs X amount of money, which I have done in the past. They need this, they need that. Are you able to do this? So it's not always about the grants. It's about, what else can we do? What else can we utilize to enhance what you're delivering? And this goes back to, crime, getting the kids in positive activity, getting the youth back in positive activities. And this is what we're sort of lacking, but this is where the businesses need to get involved as well. It's not just about, the grants that we have. And listen, it's using my expertise in that as well. And again, I think, are they fully aware that, our shops like Tesco, Asda, they have community champions, which can also support with equipment, which people are not aware of.
Are you happy with?
Yeah, you had a supplementary one.
No, it's not a supplementary question. I can imagine, Nita, you're quite persuasive. So we will move on to leading change. Councillor Ellison, please.
Hi, Nita. Can you provide an example that demonstrates your ability to lead change or to inspire colleagues to do things differently? And what was your role in the change process?
Okay, so I've set up projects in the past before, and obviously I've led on them. But what my biggest thing is utilising the team's strength. So for me, it's about what strength are they going to bring to the project, and I think that's where I'll lead it. I wouldn't just put somebody in that doesn't know anything about PR or social media or doesn't know how to do, videos or posters. It would just be pointless. So what I'll do is I'd have a team and utilise the strength, and then put the project together to say, well, this is your area of expertise, a bit like what Rupert's just done, to be quite honest with you, which I think's pretty perfect, because he's got a team where you're utilising each of the strengths. Now mine would be what the other two guys are, but mine is this, and theirs, and vice versa, and that's how I would sort of lead the project. Now there's always challenges with it, but what I do is if there is problems or any challenges, I pull back very quickly. I don't let something carry on. I actually pull it back and go, it's not working, so what are we going to do now? And go back to the drawing board. I wouldn't prolong something. I think if it's not working, pull it back. Let's think of option B.
Okay, Mr. Lloydell, please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, it's partnership working. It's something that I support wholeheartedly, and the Police and Crime Commissioner is also favourable with comes to partnership working. It talks about the economic situation as well, and the economic situation experienced by public sector organisations, I'm sure you're aware, that has led to a greater emphasis on partnership working and shared services. What experience are you bringing to the role which enables you to work with partners in an effective manner at a time of severely constrained resources? Some of it, I think you answered. Fairness.
Like I said to you, collaboration and partnership is key for me, because without it, you don't get anywhere, and that is the truth. You can do things on your own, you can solely do this and this on your own, but without that collaboration, you don't have the sustainability, and you don't have the real network of everybody coming together. So for me, partnership working is just absolutely vital. It's key. Like I said, with the disorders, working with Rupert, the community cohesion team, none of it would have happened So for me, it's so vital. It's key for me. It really is.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Nita. There is a supplementary, which I'm guessing. Yeah, okay, thank you, Mr. Woodman. Okay, so can I ask a slightly different supplementary then, please, Nita? You're clearly vastly experienced in working your way through the system, the mechanism, whatever we want to call it. Where, in your experience, has been the biggest roadblock or hurdle or challenge or whatever you want to call it? What can we do better that we're not doing? And I don't just mean with the Commissioner's office, but in general terms, we're all public sector here. So where is there something that you've come across that you would be able to pick up and actually try and work through and influence?
I think it's being known. I think if not to go into too much detail, but I think it's people know who you are and what you're delivering and what you stand for as well. What is that integrity? What is your morals? What is your values? And I think that's really important. And this is where I think, with Rupert, that, people do know who Rupert is. Whereas I think with a lot of other professionals, I have to say they don't know. I could mention many names and they'll say, I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know who this is. I don't know who that is. And I think, being present and making sure people know who you are is key as well, because I think that's where you can move forward with a lot of the work that needs to be done as well. So I think that's been missing. And I think obviously, again, like I said, the barriers between the police and I would say our grassroots, you've got your stakeholders, don't get me wrong, who are very welcoming and say yes, yes, yes. But the real grassroots that people have never heard of, and yet they're taking a lot of the youth off the kids, pumping their own money into what they're doing, which I've come across many, many a times. They're putting their own hand in their pocket to make sure they've got 20 or 30 youths off the streets. And I'm thinking, right, okay, this is where I need to help and support you. But they don't know they wouldn't know who was who. And I think this is where I want that change to start to happen.
Thank you, Nita. I'm not going to ask the next question because it was mine. Yeah. So, Mr. Woodman, the personal independence, first question is yours, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can you explain your understanding of the terms operational independence and personal independence?
The operational independence is purely Rupert and the team, and I wouldn't get involved in any of that. That is something that I wouldn't personally get involved in, the operational side of it, personally. The personal, well, that's to do with my own personal views. I wouldn't really bring my, if that's correct, I wouldn't really bring my personal views or into work or anything like that. I would completely be professional, not being biased to anything, listen, be sympathetic. Anything I came across, I would obviously talk to Rupert about to just make sure I'm on the right track as well. So I think it's also making sure, he's making sure that I'm not getting too involved in something, if I'm on the right track, involved in anything that I'm personally getting involved in. So I think it's just knowing the differences, just knowing where my boundaries are, what I cannot do, and where I need to stay clear of, and keep it that way until Rupert says, no, actually, I need you to do this.
Do you want to pick up that supplementary, Mr. Woodman?
Yes. How would you apply this to the relationship between the OPCC and the Chief Constable, and how the separation of powers should be maintained? So, with regards to the relationship between the Rupert's office and the Chief Constable, how would you see that the separation of powers should be maintained?
Just don't put them in the same room. Joking. Can I just say something? Joking. Can I say something? I know Dave Sandel. So, like I said, I've worked with Leicestershire Police for a long time, I'll say for a good 3 years. So I knew Rob Nixon prior to Dave Sandall. And so the relationships are there anyway. I wouldn't get involved. It's not for me to get involved in any of the politics or anything like that. Obviously, I'll remain professional, and I have to know where my role is and where my sort of loyalty is. Well, not to say that I wouldn't respect anything that's being said, but I just wouldn't get involved. It's not for me to dispute anything there, really. I'll just do my bit.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Nita. So, Councillor Blackshaw, you've got the next question, please.
Thank you. Let's say that the PCC wanted to follow a course of action that you personally felt was really unwise to do. How would you handle that situation, and how far would you pursue giving your advice if it was unwelcome?
He's got no choice. No, I'm joking. Oh God, I'm only messing. I would have to respect what he says, of course, and how I would present it is give the pros and cons. I'll say, well, here are the pros and here's the cons of it, and let him have a look at where I'm coming from as well. So, and then, but if Rupert was like adamant and says no, I would just respect that. But as long as he knew I gave a good case, but I wouldn't keep pursuing it. I would present it, and that would be it for me. It would obviously it falls on him, and I kind of respect what he says. I mean, he's got a lot more experience than me in some areas, so I would actually respect, what Rupert would say and the team would say. But as I would know that I've presented it well.
Could you give more of an example, sort of mechanistically? So you're saying that you would give him a list of pros and cons. How are you going to present that to him? How are you going to get the message across?
It really depends on if I had to say, look, I don't know, something to do with grassroots community and they really need this, or I really believe that this is what they want to do, and Rupert's sort of adamant that no, I don't think so. I would kind of say, well, these are the reasons why, and these are the reasons where I think you're coming from that may not work. And we would look at that, and I would hope that we've got that relationship where we could sit down and have a look at that. But ultimately, it's his decision, and that's that really, it is his decision. But I would be confident enough to present what I needed to present, and knowing I've done that.
Okay, thank you, Nita. Mr. Mullaney, please.
Thank you. How do you ensure that you act fairly across the county, city and Rutland to ensure they get an equal focus in the role of Deputy PCC?
I mean, for one day a week, I'll try my best. But, and obviously, I know Rupert's really busy, so we would be very thin in trying to get everywhere. But how we'll do it is presence. It really is presence, and word of mouth as well. I think we don't value that. We actually, people would start to say, oh, can you come here? Can you come over here? So I think to try and do it fairly, I would do some research, geographical areas where we haven't hit before. So also looking at areas that we've never been to, tapping into the right communities and services. So I think it's just really trying to make sure we're hitting what we're doing and doing the homework on it. So it's not just about what we know. Like I said, I'm very hot in the city. I kind of know, but I'm sure there's areas in the city that I've actually or have not taken Rupert into that I still need to find out about. And that's the same in the county. So trying to do it fairly, we'll just try our best. But I think it's also doing your homework on it as well. Trying to find out, these pockets of areas where we've not been to and making sure we go there, and word of mouth. So we could go somewhere we've never been to. They might turn around and say, do you know what? Do you know such and such down the road? When we've been there, do you know whoever down the road? So we'll have that dialogue as well. So I'm very good at going somewhere and then saying, do you know? Blah, 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 blah as well. I don't just go in and say, oh, it's great to meet you. I'll also say, you know what, this is what we're doing. Do you know anywhere else where you think we could go to, or you think we need to go and visit? So it's also respecting that. They're thinking, well, they're asking us. So that we can only try our best. And like I said, do our homework, do our research, obviously sit with Rupert, sit with the team and find out, what they've done so far and where we need to go next. And I suppose this is where we'll sit down and do a bit of an action plan.
Thank you, Nita. You'll be very pleased to learn that you're almost at the end. So before no such luck, no. So before I hand over to Councillor Blackshaw for the last question. So we're the Police and Crime Panel. We scrutinise and hold the Commissioner to account for the delivery of the Police and Crime Plan. And through Rupert, we hold the force to account to a degree, but it's through the Commissioner. Police and Crime Plan is in force. You're successful. Take on this role. Day one day a week. What are you going to hit the ground running with?
I think the first thing I will do is obviously sit with Rupert, put a bit of a plan of action together. We've already had a little bit of a dialogue on some of the areas that we sort of need to hit, raising the profile, hit the ground running in the sense of what needs to be done now.
You have a vast amount of experience here, as you've eloquently demonstrated. You're clearly an independent thinker. You're clearly very passionate about what you do. What would you hit the ground running with? Well, what out of all the Police and Crime Plan actions and opportunities and funding arrangements and groups that the office interact with or they don't interact with potentially, what would you hit the ground? What would you say to Rupert on that day one? Right, this is what I want to crack on with.
Truthfully, the underrepresented communities is what I'd want to hit the ground running with, where they don't know who we are. And that's probably what I'd say. Let's go and see what they do.
Thank you. Good answer. Liz.
Thank you. So when you get to the end of this term of office, how will we know whether you've been a success? What criteria should we judge your performance in the role?
Well, I'm hoping that, you judge the performance as I go along as well. So, making sure that, things are being done correctly, looking at data, even stats, testimonials even. So I'm hoping that, you're looking at the performance as they go along, not just right at the end. So that's what I would actually really want to know, because if things are not being done correctly or, we need to pull back and have a look at that. So that's where I would want to know what we're doing to make it a success. So I'd want to be definitely successful, but obviously making sure that it's monitored. And that for me, that's really important to make sure we're on the right track and we are doing what, we're supposed to be doing as well.
Okay, thank you, Nita. Right, so that ends the confirmation hearing for you. Thank Mr. Matthews, yourself, your fellow candidates, and the Chief Exec Claire for attending. We now move to agenda item 11. No, 12. Exclusion of the press and public, and I move under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972. The public will be excluded for the following items of business. Everybody in agreement? Thank you.
Sorry, may I just thank the panel for their time and consideration and the effort that they've put into this. Obviously, I came here convinced that I'd chosen the right three people for this job share arrangement. It is up to you to reach your judgment on it, but I would like to thank the panel for the time and effort they've clearly put into preparing for this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Mr. Matthews. Yeah, it's been a bit of a haul for members to get through three confirmation hearings, but thank you for that. Yeah, take care, Nita. Thank you. Oh. Thank you, members. We're now back in live session. I'd just like to thank the public for your patience. That brings the confirmation hearings to an end. Agenda item 14 is the date of the future meetings, which are listed on the agenda. The next meeting of the panel is scheduled to take place on the 1st of December 2025. Meetings of the panel in 2026 are scheduled to take place at 1400 hours on the following dates. Agenda item 15, any other items which the chairman has decided to take as urgent. There are no urgent items, so that brings the meeting to a close. Thank you for your time, members. It's been a bit of a trek to get through all three, but thank you for your diligence and time, and safe travels home.